allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Terry, roll call, please.
Mrs. Fish.
Here.
Dr. Gatachu.
Here.
Mr. Gordon.
Here.
Dr. Gursky.
Here.
Mr. Kirsch.
Here.
Mr. Reichert.
Here.
Dr. Yuasa.
Here.
Mrs. Edmeades. Mr. Huron.
Here. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. First order of business is meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the March 10th, 2021 meeting?
I make that motion.
Thank you, Christina.
Second.
Thank you, Daryl. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, our board administrative announcements. And I'm on the list first. There's nothing to report right now for Columbia Montour VOTEC. Dr. Gatachu.
Yes.
You have something for CSIU, please?
Yes, I have a couple of things from CSIU. One is some of the things that Dr. Boyd will go into, which is a vaccine. In the CSIU area, a total of about 3,117 educators were vaccinated in cooperation with Geisinger and also at the CSIU clinic in March 12 and 15. And that's a good news. And the other is there was a program called YES. YES stands for Your Employment Services. The chief outreach officer for that organization, Dr. Bernadette Borkel, shared a video with the directors highlighting the YES, Y-E-S, to the Future program. The CSIU partners with the Central Pennsylvania Workforce Development Corporation and Pennsylvania Career Link to provide education, training, and employment services to young adults between the ages of 16 and 24. These services include gaining job skills through paid internships, exploring careers, searching for jobs, learning to manage money, getting their GED, meeting one-on-one with YES staff, visiting colleges and training programs, and touring employer sites. There is a video link that I will probably send it to the group and shortly, but from the website, CSIU's website at csiu.org/YES, that can be accessed. And people who are candidates for this or who are interested can call at 570-238-3400 and get more information and get connected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Buildings and Grounds Committee. Daryl, is there anything today?
Yes, I have a small report here from March 15th. KCBA met with Dr. Boyle, John Bickhart, and the directors of IT and Buildings and Grounds along with the building principals on Friday, March the 19th, 2021 to discuss possible renovation options. After a period of discussing scenarios, KCBA was given a challenge of providing additional efficient options. A virtual meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June the 30th. Second, the Riverside Elementary School building sale is awaiting settlement date anticipated in April. Third, the middle school walk-in refrigerator is on schedule to be installed in June. Currently waiting price quotes to secure a demolition contract to remove the existing for each refrigerator. And then we also have a 5-year extension to the partial roof warranty at Liberty Valley and high school. It has been executed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Quick question: is there any value to an old refrigerator like that? It's just yank it out and say bye-bye? Oh,
But
okay.
it's
Okay.
trapped in there pretty hard.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you talking about that. Okay, thank you. Okay, athletics committee, Mr. Gordon, please.
Yes, our students were able to have their winter drama production. We're very proud of them for that, even though there was reduced attendance. I understand it went off pretty well, which very proud of our students for doing that. We had a very successful winter sports season with all of our swimming, diving, basketball team. Spring sports are well underway, and new guidelines for spring sports were just released yesterday, which Mr. Johns will touch on later.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. What's next? Policy committee. Dr. Katachu, did you want to report on that or?
Yes. So we had our meeting. What we do in this meeting is update policies and procedures and make sure they comply with the state requirements. And we've done that. And a few of them, we're gonna down the list of our to-do list today. We have them that we're gonna review. Some of them, they have a first look, and that's what we do. So basically policies and procedures are like rules of the game. That's how we know how to run and what rules to follow when we run the school system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then we're going to start doing routinely the PSBA, Pennsylvania School Board Association Liaison Report, which is a document that gets sent out, and I am the point person for our district, and we distribute it. There's two particular items that I'd like to just read real quick for the record, and there's obviously more opportunity to research further, but I'll read these accordingly. So, mandate relief. School districts need relief from mandates that are cumbersome, expensive, and in some cases antiquated. And again, this isn't my words. This is actually verbatim out of the PSBA liaison report. Senate Bill 73 and a companion bill to be introduced into the House, which would allow school districts to apply for a waiver from certain but not all state-imposed mandates in order to benefit students and taxpayers. So there's some legislation going on to address some of these mandates that have been part of our world and continue to be. Then there's a second one, House Bill 272, the Charter School Reform Act of 2021. The proposal aligns charter school funding with actual costs, establishes a statewide cyber school tuition rate, holds low-performing charter schools accountable, and requires for-profit charter school management companies to be transparent. And that was a direct quote from Mr. Mark DiRocco. I don't recall what his title of function was. I don't have it here, but anyway, so those are two highlights in this report. And obviously, if there's more value to folks digging in deeper, we can get links and all that kind of stuff.
Dr. Duraco is the head of Psba.
Oh, is that, yeah, okay. He looked familiar. I didn't know. Okay. Thank you, Christina.
Do you, I didn't get a chance to read the whole bill. Do you know how much they're putting in for tuition?
They're putting in the lowest amount, and it's like around $9,200.
Okay.
So that's pretty much a secret.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Okay. Anybody else on any of what we just covered? Okay, thank you. Okay, next order of business tonight is the school board meeting schedule. The school board will take action to revise the 2021 board meeting schedule to one meeting per month for the months of May, June, and July. The scheduled board meetings will take place on the second Wednesday of the month, and the board meetings scheduled for the fourth Wednesday of the month will be canceled. So it's a change in our current structure. So is that a voice vote?
I would roll call.
Roll call? Okay. So we'll have a roll call for that particular item. So Terry?
That,
We make a
you know,
motion
I'm
maybe-
sorry, is there, yeah, before I guess I just jumped ahead, was there anything that we wanted to discuss before we actually move to voting on that? I'm just jumping ahead a little, sorry.
I'll make
Oh.
the motion.
Okay,
I'll
thank you.
second.
All right, thank you both, Kyle and Caston. Okay, Terry, roll call, please.
Mrs. Fish,
Yes.
Dr. Katachu,
Yes.
Mr. Gordon,
Yes.
Dr. Gursky,
Yes.
Mr. Kirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Reichert,
Yes.
Dr. Yuasa,
Yes.
Mr. Huron.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Okay, let's move on to superintendent's report. And Ricky, please.
Good evening, everyone. Our enrollment report, this down. Our enrollment report remains pretty steady with 2,240 students enrolled in the buildings, and we haven't had a lot of fluctuation with that. We are having movement, though, from students who are on the bridge model to the in-person model. We did have a comment from one of the teachers I want to read to you that students have been transitioning from the bridge model back to the traditional in-person education across the district. We were notified by a teacher that 2 students returned to school on Tuesday, March 16th. And on that day, there was a scheduled math test. The students took the test. They did not need any extra explanation, and there was no need to give them extra time to complete the test. They completed it satisfactorily. The return has been smooth for the children, and the teacher stated, "It's like they've been in person all year long when it comes to academics. It was such a smooth transition, and for that I'm thankful we as a district offered this option." So it has been very beneficial to families who chose to keep their children home, but yet continue to give them access to the classroom through the bridge model. So that was a really good thing that has happened. Yesterday, we sent a letter home to the families, and just the highlights from that letter is that on Monday, March 29th, we will be attending in person 5 days a week. We did notify the parents that if they have anyone wants to move their child from the bridge or cyber model into the in-person model, they can contact the building principal and make those changes. And also, we made note that we are preparing for the 21-22 school year. I mean, it's at this time. Of course, everything's tentative because we don't know what will happen between now and August. But we do plan to discontinue the bridge program for next year and offer full in-person and the Ironman Cyber Academy. And more information is going to come out with specifics in April on that.
So those students that are virtual or in the bridge model and want to stay in the bridge for the rest of the school year can still do that?
Yes, they may. Yeah, there's no change for this school year. But if, I just want parents to know they can make changes if they choose to. All right. Pennsylvania, many people have talked about the fact that CDC is now talking about a 3-foot social distancing guideline as opposed to the 6-foot. What they are advising is that for students, they can be 2-3 feet apart while wearing masks, but they're advising adults to remain 6 feet apart to the best of their ability. The big thing about that is that as of now, we haven't had anything issued by the Pennsylvania Department of Health or PDE to tell us that there's anything different than the 6-foot distance. So we will continue to do things as we have to keep the distance at 6 feet to our best of our ability.
So that means you're still adhering to contact tracing for anything over.
Unless the Department of Health changes, we will continue to do what we're being advised to do.
Mhm.
Thank you, Christina. Travel. Due to the lifting of the travel restrictions by Governor Wolf, we will resume offering and allowing educational trips by case basis, and we will do that between states, but we will continue to not allow international travel. All right. And then there has been a change in occupancy. As of April 4th, we will be able to have a 25% occupancy in our facilities. We're hoping that this continues to decrease so we can have more increase, so we can have more people in the building. So we will need time to consider some of our end of the year things because as that changes, hopefully we'll be able to design graduation around those numbers. Graduation is June 4th. Plans are not final simply because things are changing rapidly. Prom is May 4th for the junior and senior students and their guests, and students will need to register guests from outside the district, and it does take, Mr. Wynn will review all of those and make sure that everything is correct and approvals are in place.
Dr.
Dr.
Boyle,
Boyle. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
What did I say? I'm sorry. May 8th. I said 4th. May 8th. Thank you, Chris. Or Jeremy.
Dr. Boyle, it's Jen Gursky. I just have a question about the field trips. Being a parent of a child who's now in 7th grade and has not had the ability to do any field trips or any other social activities at the middle age level, I'm sure he's not the only one. I'm sure Liberty Valley, there's kids in those situations and also kids who are sophomores in the high school. Are we looking at ways to offer social opportunities for kids, whether it's field days in the middle in Liberty Valley and some other things? I think it's great we're doing prom. I'm excited about that. I think that's good for the kids and good for the community, but I'd like to see just us take a look at that maybe as a board and as a district to see how those younger kids who've had very little social activities be able to participate in some fun end of year things or field trips.
Those things are being planned through the buildings. I know I've seen some things from the principals going back and forth for field days, for transition days, and also they're doing some virtual field trips that I found really interesting, and it is engaging for the students. So that's very, that's something that they've been able to do as well. But they are things that they are planning, Dr. Gursky.
Thank you.
And valediction is May 27th. Okay, that's right. Mr. Johns, would you please talk to us about the athletics and the accomplishment of our students?
Hey, real quick, before you go there, what's the rules now with outdoor sports and masks?
He's going to get to that.
Is he going to get that?
Yes,
I was going to touch on that briefly, but I'll start with that since you asked the question. Administratively, we talked about this several times with Dr. Boyle, Mr. Wynn, myself. Also, the athletic committee is consistent of, people on the board, and we are to the stage where we are not requiring our athletes to wear a mask when they're actively competing. So when they're on the sidelines or they're on the bench, they're on the bus, they're traveling, they're not actively competing. They do have to wear their mask, but when they're on the field, whether they're doing a race, whether they're participating in a meet, we have relaxed that. And that's consistent with most schools in the PHAC, the way that the schools are, approaching it. Now that we're outside, students are certainly further away from each other and the numbers continue to drop. I don't know, Dr. Boyle, if you have anything you want to add.
No, that's fine. We did have a PHAC superintendent meeting where we had this discussion and made decisions.
And we have so many accomplishments in our winter sports that Dr. Boyle didn't want to miss out on any. So she threw it to me to make sure that I got to all of them. I want to start with our girls basketball team qualified for the district playoffs this year. They kind of had an up and down season, but finished strong. And I think they have a lot to build on. Our boys basketball team, under the guidance of our first year coach, Gary Grozier, who was also the PHAC Coaches Association Coach of the Year. He was voted as that this year. We just found that out last week. They finished 17-2. They were PHAC Division champions. We were also District 4 champions. That's the second time in the last 3 years that we've accomplished that. And we also went on then to make the Elite 8 of the PIAA State Tournament. And that's only the third time in school history that our program has accomplished that. So we're super proud of obviously all of our programs, but that program really accomplished a lot against a lot of adversity this year, wearing masks, playing basketball, doing all of those things. So it was a pretty amazing run
New
for our
coach.
team. Yep. And
First
under
year
a new
coach.
first year coach, all sorts of things. It was really
calls in December too, where we won't let it.
Yep, we had 3 weeks off in the middle of the season. Our schedule was constantly being moved around. A lot of new things, but we really overcame a lot. So I'm really proud of that.
Awesome.
Our swimming and diving program, bear with me here a minute, okay? Our girls were PHAC champions. They were also District 4 champions. It's the third year in a row that they were the District 4 champions. In the diving individual category, Gabby Hackett, who, if you remember, she's one of our students who is helping lead the SPM group that had been here in the past. She was district champion as a diver, and that's the second time in 3 seasons that she's accomplished that. She then went on in the state diving competition and finished 7th. So she earned a medal, the top 8 people in swimming and diving medal. So she was super proud of that accomplishment. That was one of her goals at the beginning of the year. From a swimming standpoint, Brenna Ross was a state medalist. She took 5th place in the 50 freestyle race. And the girls' side, Caleb Hawes, senior boy, he was 5th place in the 200-meter individual medley race, and he also took 7th place in the 100 backstroke. So again, great accomplishments for those individual swimmers. They spend a lot of time, a lot of strange hours, early in the morning, late at night in the pool, working really hard. So we definitely wanted to accomplish that. Couple relay teams, Olivia Shen, Brenna Ross, Caroline Spar, Quilla Bartholomew, competed in the 200 medley relay and the 400 freestyle relay at the state meet. And we have had a boys relay team of Nick Delgado, Caleb Hawes, Ryan Hawes, and Holden Dent, who participated in the state meet as well. So we were super busy when it comes to swimming and diving. Wrestling, we had an individual, Andrew Johnson, went on and placed 5th place in the PWA Eastern Super Regional. And the significance of that is the top 4 places went on to the state meet. So he was just that close to getting a medal. So he worked really hard and had a great season. And last but not least, our bowling team, our girls team placed 7th overall at our regional competition. And that included numerous girls who were brand new to bowling. So they really, you're kind of smiling. I know your daughter's involved in that program, but it's really an amazing accomplishment for those girls. So again, so many things.
How many seniors that came out for their first time ever?
Again, and that's only our winter season. And I know we have some more things we're planning to talk about future board meetings about some of our other accomplishments in the fall and the winter. But again, it's just an amazing, sometimes we take for granted, I think, some of our success, but sometimes I think we really need to step back and just remember how lucky we are to have the programs that we have, the coaches that we have, the student athletes that we have, and the families in the community that support us. So again, thank you for allowing me to indulge it a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I would like to add, and you just touched on it very well, eloquently. I think that it's a reflection on many people, including the parents, including the sacrifices that they had to go through to get the kids to and from these events, the constant adjustments. Kyle mentioned that big hiccup in the middle of a season where everything came to a screeching halt on short notice. And then the amount of time and effort these coaches put in and their staff away from the gym sometimes doesn't get noticed, or the field or the pool. I think that's a big thing. And then there's those countless number of people that volunteer. If you ever go to the venue, you do because you have oversight and all that. But if you ever really put together and watch all it takes to put together a program and then to have some of the successes that complement all that hard work, it's reflected in what you just said. So that's
Just
great
to add,
for the
we also
district.
went through a whole season, obviously the fall and the winter, where we've been doing health and safety checks every day on these kids. The connection between our training staff and our coaches is just amazing. And I can't speak highly enough about how everybody's kind of risen to the occasion. So again, these are accomplishments that our kids have done just this winter season, but it's amazing. And it takes a village to make this whole thing work. So
Awesome.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
For the spring sports, are we going to be allowed to do concession stand?
yes, we talked about that as an athletic committee as well. I think we're encouraging most programs to have packaged goods and maybe keep it simple, like hot dogs or basic things. But I think we're to the stage where we're back outside. I know I've been in contact with the softball and the baseball programs. I know Coach Kalena has asked me as well. So yes, we are
Middle school
encouraging.
soccer wants to.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Johns?
Anything else?
I would just like to add something to that regarding our basketball team. We had 6 seniors on our basketball team this year, and the leadership these young men showed to the younger players, some sophomores, some freshmen, was really, really outstanding. It was a complete joy to watch this senior class play with smiles on their face every game. It was really, really enjoyable, and they did a great job the whole year. They really enjoyed themselves, and they did very well for us in our community.
That makes it all worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, everyone.
I'm not done.
I knew that. I was just about to turn my mic off.
All right. Well, if you see Alyssa Bergenstock, she's an 8th grader, congratulate her because she won first place in the graphic logo design in the PA Media and Design competition. She's going to move on to states in May, and her design is outside the library at the middle school. If anyone wants to stop there and visit and see what she's done, she's pretty amazing. I've got a poster of it here. This is her 3rd year participating and her 2nd time at states. I'll pass that around for you guys. So that's pretty special. Also at middle school, we've finished up Puffs, and it's a very good program that we happened at the drama. And I'll have to tell you quite honestly, today I got a stack of requests for the gym or the auditorium for next year. So they're planning on next year's play already, and they'll be practicing in November, December January, February, and it'll be the first weekend in March is when the play will be.
The high school did puffs.
Yeah, the high school. So
And middle school did.
I'm doing that
Oh,
next.
sorry.
Okay, yeah. So now
I was
we're
confused
moving.
because you said middle school and I went, wait a minute.
Yeah, I said, well, yeah, we finished up with the high school. Now the middle school is April 3rd and 4th. Thanks, Christina. The Danville Middle School Drama Club will be performing Louisa May Alcott's Little Women through Broadway on demand. So this is a link that you can find on our webpage in order to go in and get tickets. It'll be virtual. So the students have been working very hard, both online and in person, to make this show happen. And again, go to the website so you can click on and see what's happening. And my COVID-19 report, the level of transmission, there were 16 positive cases reported for Montour County over the past week, and that's an average of 2.3 cases daily. And I did look at our numbers in the last 14 days here in the district, and we had a total of 4 positive cases in the last 14 days. 1 in the primary building, 1 in Liberty Valley, and 2 at the high school. And the 2 at the high school were connected with a cheerleading trip that was taken to Texas. So that's where we're at. Our numbers are staying fairly low, so I'm pleased about that. And as Dr. Gatachu mentioned, the CSIU has been instrumental in providing a location for people to get the Johnson & Johnson shots. And we've gone through well over 150 of our staff getting that shot specifically, and many others have already gotten the other shots at Geisinger. The next round of vaccinations will be on Sunday, March 28th for the ones that I have left on my list. So we should be able to get everyone who wants a shot their shots. That includes coaches, other people in the district, not just teachers. Yep, substitutes, bus drivers. We've opened it to everyone at this point, so we can get as many people vaccinated as possible. Now you can have the mic.
Can I just talk to the play? I just want to commend the Danville high school drama team. The Puffs play was a really unique experience. It was a lot of fun, and they put on quite a production in the face of a lot of adversity, having to wear masks, having to try to make the mics work, having to only have a small percentage of their auditorium filled. But they did a fantastic job. It was so much fun, and although the set was simple, you could see there was so much work because it was so fast paced that they had to do so much just to keep it going. It was awesome. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, amazing production. And, that's what this is all about. We want to have those other fun things that create a positive culture and a reason to come to school. I don't know too many kids that say, I can't wait to come to AP Trig. But but they can't wait to come
To all
to
you trig teachers, she doesn't mean it.
I didn't say there were none.
I used to look forward to that.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we're trying to do is reestablish a culture of, fun at school, at all our buildings. And, all the principals are doing things to try and make activities, especially through PBIS and some of the other items to do, like Fun Fridays at the primary school right now. For the rest of the year, every Friday has to be a Fun Friday. I went into the primary school, and there was a young, little second grader sitting there, and she was waiting very patiently for one of our secretaries. And I asked her what she's doing, and she says, I'm doing books and braids. Books and braids is what Mrs. Brady has put together, where she has the child read her a book, and then she braids their hair.
Oh.
And they go home with a little bag, and this is all her initiative, what she wants to do and this is the kind of employees we have across the district. It is amazing at just how much they do to reach out and give kids special moments. So it's a wonderful place to work. All right, now I'm done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kyle, I think Kyle.
Okay.
Good.
Oh,
I'm good.
a
Thank you.
comment?
I'm
No,
sorry.
fine.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the first public comment period. Standard protocol will be anybody that would like to make a public comment should state their name and their address, and please address only agenda items at this time. And we will kindly ask that you limit your public comment to 3 minutes. And we'll first look around the room to see if anybody in this venue wants to make a public comment. No, going once, going twice. Okay. Jeff, I open it up to anybody out there in virtual land. If there's anybody that would like a public comment.
Yep, we have someone. Go ahead and unmute your mic and please state your name and address, please.
Allison Maloney, 64 Horizon Drive. Am I good to start? Can you hear me?
Yes, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead, Allison.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for supporting I'm going to read this and then I have other things to say if I have time. I'd like to thank you for supporting the longstanding tradition of allowing students to bring dates from outside the district to the prom. For the class of 21, this is especially appreciated as they lost their junior prom in both attending and planning the event. In yesterday's email by Dr. Boyle, you share how the decision-making went down, and I want you to know that above and beyond the groups that you met with in private, there were many other parents and students that were hoping to offer their voices tonight in support of this. This is where my comments are focused. The class of 21 is special like no other, not just because I have a student in this class, but this class has truly been impacted the most. I believe it is important to provide these students opportunities to focus on the normal milestones and activities of a senior year despite what has happened, and to learn how to advocate for themselves and share ideas in a professional environment. Many parents and seniors felt totally uninformed and unable to contribute to any components of the decision-making process, which directly involves and impacts them. Without pointing fingers, I will say that there were many unanswered emails and direct questions or answers that were directed with the idea that Dr. Boyle will decide. I am asking for transparency and active engagement and communication to teachers, administrators, and the parents and seniors moving forward. This is a public governing board who serves the Danville community. I hope that we can provide these seniors opportunities to be engaged in such civic and professional processes where there is shared decision-making and not unilateral decisions that are handed down without input from many parties. Additional routine activities include baccalaureate and graduation. I hope that you keep us all in communication regarding the planning of these events. These seniors have lost so much. I would like to suggest a week or day of activities at the school just for seniors. There are so many students and parents with ideas who want to help. I hope you will involve the parents and students in providing them memorable events they will cherish forever. And I just would like to add, based on what I've heard, I think the ideas from Dr. Gursky are phenomenal. I know my angle is for the seniors and what's going on for them, but I think it's just as important in other areas. And I just want it to be known that I'm not saying you're doing those things, but the perception of the lack of involvement and communication is coming across in that manner. So I'm trying to represent a group of people that wanted to attend the night, but were unable. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Excuse me. Is there anybody else, Jeff?
No other public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our next order of business, which is our presentations section. Is this where you want to introduce?
Yes,
Bobby?
please.
Go ahead, please.
Yes. Hi, I'd like to introduce Lisa. She's from WDE and Associates. She is our accountant that worked on the audit this year. She will be presenting all the audit information, and I just wanted to give her a thank you. She had to come out and audit in person through the COVID and tried to navigate getting information virtually. And I know she likes paper copies of everything, so I want to thank her. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, and thank you for all you did this year to get the audit out in a timely manner.
Good evening. As Bobby said, my name's Lisa Wyrick, and I am with Wagner, Dries, Elsesser and Associates. I know some of you have received a copy of the report, but I will share my screen and do a brief review of the 2020 financial report. We'll walk through the structure of the financial statements, and I will follow with some financial highlights. The first item in the financial report is the independent auditor's report, and I'm not going to read word for word or go number by number. I'm strictly going to highlight.
Lisa, we can't see your screen.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. We do have a copy of it here if anyone wants to follow along, this big financial statement, and then it's also attached to your agenda.
Hold on a minute. I think maybe. How about now?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, sorry about that. As I said, the first item in the financial report is the independent auditor's report, and the important piece on this is the opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the Danville Area School District, Danville, Pennsylvania, as of June 30th, 2020, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof, and the respective budgetary comparison for the general fund for the year ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. And that is what you want your audit opinion to say. The next part of the financial statements would be the management discussion and analysis. That's on pages 4 through 14. It's required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and it is management's discussion or analysis of the school district's activities for the year. Next, we have the actual financial statements. They go from page 15 through 25. They start with, there's two sections. There's a government-wide financial statements, and then there are fund financial statements. The government-wide financial statements include everything except the fiduciary funds, and they include a statement of net position on page 15 and a statement of activities on page 16. This is followed by the fund statements, including a balance sheet, a reconciliation that will take you from the balance sheet back to that statement of net position, a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances, and then another reconciliation that takes you back to the statement of activities. This is the general fund budget to actual on page 21. And then we move into the proprietary fund statements. That would be your food service. And that includes a statement of net position, a statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, and a statement of cash flows. Finally, we have the statement of fiduciary net position. And that, I believe, is your, that would be your that'd be your scholarship fund. Following the statements are the notes to the financial statements, and they go from pages 26 through 63. They provide additional detail on the different assets and liabilities, revenues, and expenses contained within the financial statements. Following the notes are on page 64, we start with required supplementary information. This is all relates to the pension liability and the OPEB liability. There's statements running from page 64 through page 68. On page 69, this is considered supplementary information, and this is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. It provides details of federal funding received. It's followed by its own set of notes. Oops. On page 71. And lastly, we have two additional opinion letters. On page 71, we have 72. This is the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. We did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. And the results of our testing disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. Page 74 is another opinion letter. Independent auditors report on compliance for each major program and on internal control over compliance required by the uniform guidance. And Danville School District complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements that could have a direct and material effect on each of its major federal programs. And we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control over compliance that we consider to be material weaknesses. Page 75 is a schedule of findings and questions costs, which you did not have any findings or question cost. And the last page, page 78, would list prior year findings, which you had none. I'll briefly go over some financial highlights. I am going to jump back to page 21, which is the budget to actual report of the general fund. The school district ended the year with near expected revenues, the difference being $18,000 less than budgeted. Revenues from local sources were greater than anticipated by $250,000, while state revenues were less than anticipated by $419,000. And federal revenues were more than anticipated by approximately $151,000. Expenditures overall were $1.3 million less than budgeted. Expenditures exceeded revenues by approximately $58,000, and coupled with net fund transfers out of $410,000 and insurance recoveries of $5,000 resulted in a negative change in fund balance of approximately $463,000. Ending fund balance of the general fund was $7.5 million at June 30th, 2020. I'm going to jump to page 15, which is
Lisa, I'm just going to jump in real quick. I got looks when we were off 1.2 million on expenses, so I just want to go over that. So the 1.2 million had an increase for the teachers, and the teachers didn't settle that year. So this report has a 0% increase in actual for teachers' contract salaries, but in fact we retro paid them in the current year. So while this shows that there was a difference, we actually paid it. So we're going to be off on this year's budget the opposite way because we paid it in this year instead of last year. So I had budgeted that we would do an increase for the teachers last year. And that's why there was a savings last year because they did not get the increase. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. Okay, back on the statement of net position, which is on page 15. Current and other assets were $19.4 million at June 30th, 2020. Cash and investments accounted for $15.1 million of that total, while taxes receivable, intergovernmental receivables, and inventories accounted for the remaining $4.3 million of that amount. Capital assets, net of depreciation, totaled $49.4 million. Of that amount, $331,900 consists of construction in progress related to expansion and renovation projects. Also, on the statement of net position, we have deferred outflows of resources. In addition to assets, the statement of net position will sometimes report deferred outflows of resources. The outflows represent a consumption of net position that applies to future periods and will not be recognized as expenditure or expenses until that time. The district has deferred outflows of resources that relate to the pension plan totaling $7.9 million and $708,000 related to other post-employment benefits. Liabilities. Current liabilities were $7.1 million at June 30th, 2020. Of that amount, $488,000 related to accounts payable, $2.8 million related to accrued salaries and benefits, current portion of bonds payable of $1.8 million, and other liabilities of approximately $2 million. Long-term liabilities totaled $98.5 million at June 30th, 2020. Of that amount, $36.8 million related to bonds payable, $56.5 million related to the district's net pension liability, and $5.3 million related to the compensated absences and other post-employment benefits. Deferred inflows of resources. In addition to liabilities, this statement of net position will sometimes report a separate section for deferred inflows of resources. This section represents an acquisition of net position that applies to future periods. It will not be recognized as revenue until that time. The district has deferred inflows that relate to the pension plan totaling $440,000 and I might have a typo there. Yes, it looks like it should be 4.4 million and 290,000, which relates to the district's OPEB. And that leads us to the net position. Net position at June 30th, 2020 was a negative 33 million. Of that amount, 10.9 million was invested in capital assets, 0 was restricted, and a negative 43.9 million was unrestricted. If you have any questions after you review any of this or think it over, you can contact Bobby for my contact information. I'd be happy to discuss any of it with you or explain anything that maybe wasn't clear. Do you have anything else, Bobby, you want me to talk about?
Got a quick question. How are we performing our performance for general fund versus our goal?
So could you repeat that?
Yeah, I was asking the question regarding our general fund balance, how we are performing actual versus goal.
So our general fund balance has an assigned fund balance and an unrestricted, a restricted and unrestricted. Is that the term? I forget off the top of my head. Unassigned and assigned. So the unassigned is under 8%. So that's the money that we could use for shortfalls like we had last year for $463,000. So that's under 8%. Combined, we're about 18% on assigned and unassigned. Assigned is for PSERS increases, health insurance increases, curriculum updates, that kind of thing. We assign that. So we're about 18% total. And the board, the previous board had put this in place that we wanted to stay around 20% total. So we're at 18. So we're a little low, but it was approximately 20%. So 18 is approximately 20, but we're at our limit. And then we did go over the Moody's investment the last time and the fund balance range there. We're in a AA for that fund balance range. To be in a AAA, which is the better range, you have to be 25% or more in your total fund balance. So,
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else on this item? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
So now we're on to item 5.2, Bobby?
Yep.
Okay, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Up next is Jamie Doyle from PFM, but before she gets started, I wanted to thank the Finance Committee, Mr. Kirsch, Dr. Gitachi, and Mrs. Fish for sending the recommendation for the refinancing of this bond. We expected some savings, but we didn't expect the amount of savings that we actually received, and Jamie will go over that. So I want to thank you guys for bringing this to the board for full consideration when we weren't sure we were going to get too much. So thank you for that. And I want to thank Jamie and her team because they worked hard and the auction was very successful. So she'll go over the bond refinancing now. Thank you, Jamie.
Good evening, and thank you for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening, and hopefully you can see my screen right now.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Wonderful. So we had excellent sale results. As was mentioned, the sale was almost 2 weeks ago. It occurred on March 11th. And you can see, I'll skip to the bottom part of my chart. You can see we caught a nice little dip in interest rate again, which obviously helped the refinancing opportunity. We received 17 different bids from 4 different underwriting syndicates. The winning bid came from Janney Montgomery Scott, and they bid a true interest cost of just over 1.68%. They bid alone. There was no one else in their syndicate. and they did not require you to pay for bond insurance. They relied strictly on your underlying AA3 credit rating with a stable outlook, and that's a terrific rating. And that rating is kind of right on the fence. Sometimes underwriters want bond insurance with a AA3, and sometimes they don't. So they did not require bond insurance this time, which was great, because we also bid out the bond insurance. You can see those premiums right here. So right off the bat, your excellent credit rating saved you a minimum of $21,100 that you did not have to pay. So continue, keep up the good work and continue to maintain that AA3 credit. The paying agent will be Manufacturers and Traders Trust Company, and the optional redemption date, that's the next time you can call these bonds back from the investor, is May 1 of 2026, 5-year. Page 4 is just a chronology of these same 17 bids, the competition that took place, and where you see an asterisk beside the TIC column, the true interest cost column, you can see an activation of the 2-minute rule, meaning that there was less than 2 minutes left in the auction, and a new winning bid took first place and added 2 more minutes onto the clock from that point in time. A lot of good stiff competition, which was great for the state. This page should look familiar. What we're talking about this evening is the final report on step 1, which was the refinancing of your 2016 bonds. Settlement is scheduled for April 15th. And you can see in summary, the net savings to the school district came in at $710,802. And that's better than what I had shown you back in January when we started this process. That's better by 341,000, almost 342,000. So just about double what I showed you back in January, and excellent, excellent results. If you look down below in column 6, you'll see that the way you'll recognize these savings is roughly $106,000 in your current fiscal year, meaning that money is sitting in your general fund right now. And when the spring bill comes, it'll be less by $106,200 than it otherwise would have been. And then the remainder of your savings we're using and spreading out over most of the life of your issue in order to smooth out your debt portfolio and make things a little bit more level going forward. So you can see the savings are spread out over the existing life of the issue. And again, in total, that's $710,802. We will be, you see the blue columns on here are still labeled estimated. That's step 2. We are prepared and everything is looking great for the second step of the plan for a sale and locking in rates and savings around March 30th. So everything's on target with step 2. To quickly go through the mechanics of what you've already accomplished with step 1, you'll see your existing 2016 bonds. If you would have done nothing, you would have continued to make the payments on this page, but we're going to refund all these bonds. We're going to get rid of the old higher interest rates in column 3, which again ranged anywhere from a 2% on the low end to a 3% your highest rate, but on the long end of the issue, yep, you hit 3% again. So those are the rates you're getting rid of. This page just shows how much money we needed to pay off the old 2016 bonds, principal and interest. And then here's the backup amortization schedule for the savings. You can see the winning coupons in column 3, and most importantly, the winning yields in column 4. So your new rates that are replacing those old 2 to 3% rates range from 1/3% on the short end to 1.55% on the long end. We're not extending the debt at all, just replacing the old higher rates with today's lower rates. And again, you can see the same savings that you just looked at on the summary page in the last column. And you can also see your savings as a percent of refunded bonds is 7.37%. The historic benchmark is 2%, so you're well through that historic benchmark. And you're even saving the state a little bit of money. The state will benefit by $106,000 and change from this refunding. This page shows the sources and uses of funds. A couple things on here. In order for the coupon structure on the prior page that the investors wanted, they have to pay you more than 100 cents on the dollar. That's called a premium bond. So you can see in this calculation at the bottom of the page, in every maturity, you're being paid more than 100 cents on the dollar. In dollars, that adds up to $362,000 and change that you will receive at settlement. See that number up here underneath the sources of funds. That allowed us to downsize the amount of bonds we're issuing so that your overall proceeds, when you add the face value of the bonds to that premium together, is just under that $10 million mark that we always talk about for bank qualified limits. You can see the rest of the uses of funds. And in the middle of that page, you can see again the settlement date, April 15th. And most importantly, this box labeled yield of the issue. That's the rate we'll report to the IRS. And if anybody asks you, what rate did you refinance at? You're refinancing this series of bonds at just over 1.22%. That's the overall yield. The next page is just your updated debt portfolio. So again, we'll be coming back at the end of the month to refund the 2016 A bonds that you already authorized. We're expecting good results from that as well. And then finally, just a summary of some of the highlights that I just went over. So in conclusion, we were very pleased with the process. We were very pleased with the results. And we would like to thank Bobby for all of her hard work behind the scenes and the grueling credit rating call that she did a fantastic job on. And really, thanks to the entire team, the administration, the board, all of your efforts and difficult decisions that you make that ultimately result in that excellent credit rating that you're maintaining, as well as to the rest of the financing team, your bond counsel, your solicitor. It truly takes a group effort to deliver results of this magnitude. So I will pause there and answer any questions that you may have, but no further action is required. This is a final report. All of this fits within the parameters resolution that you already passed back on March 10th.
Well, thank you for that, Jamie. This is Chris, and I know there's a lot of technical components to this, and you've touched on just a few of them, but I think I'd really like to accentuate how I understand this process has gotten us to. So we put together a team, we focused on opportunity, we built that team, and we successfully saved, I guess if that's the right jargon or words to say it, what we had projected at one point in the process of $341,000, and ultimately it's $710,802 that our district just saved by the focus, the commitment, and everything the team that was built put together. And I think that just needs to be, besides the mechanics and the depth of the details, that's an amazing accomplishment, I think, and that's just a great show of the leadership and the work that was done. So hats off to everybody. That's incredible. That's incredible. It's worthy of noting.
This is Cast, and I'll kind of add to that. I appreciate the kind words earlier about the committee, but frankly, we're only as good as the information that's brought to us.
Absolutely.
So bringing us that information at that time was exactly what we needed to hear, and it was frankly an easy decision at 341,000, and it's a really, really good decision at 700 and change. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yes, I just want to thank Bobby because we can't do it without you. So we really appreciate the hard work and effort that you've put into this, because this is more of a reflection of your understanding than it is of ours.
Chris, this is Johannes speaking. I would also like to appreciate and say thank you so much for Bobby Eli for the hard work she's putting onto this.
Thank you.
And I will confirm that Bobby works diligently in long hours. I'll be honest, sometimes I have to try and kick her out of the office. She has done amazing jobs with budgeting. She's taught administrators how to be wiser in their management of their budgets. And she has worked very hard for the audit, which was the first information, to make sure that we're doing as well as can be expected and keeping everything above board. We've had no findings for the few years she's been here, and that's pretty exceptional. So thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Any other questions on those topics? Comments? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
Dr. Bickhart.
Okay. Dr. Bickhart, you're on. ELA curriculum proposal for new materials.
So this should be pretty easy, right? We just saved a lot of money. Now we can buy books. Thanks, Bobby.
That's why we do it for the students.
Perfect. All right, we'll go through this pretty quickly. Last, I believe, Jeremy and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the conversations was needing to look at ELA at the middle and high school level last year, and it was on the docket. It was supposed to be looked at. COVID hit. We paused because it is definitely a significant. We're joking, but it's a significant investment. It's an important investment. So we paused at that moment in the spring to say, let's make sure we're ready for this. Let's not add one new thing when everything was so uncertain last March. But we began in the fall talking about this, and we need to move forward with our plans for ELA 6 through 12. But what you'll see here is we are going to focus 6 through 9, and there's a purpose behind that. I'll explain as I go. All right, Jeff, go ahead. Next slide. So currently, this is what they're using, 6 to 12. The positives about the current series they're using: literature-based, keystone preparation, skill-focused, generator, fiction-focused. Negatives are 2007 series, so you're at 14 years. Not that you can't work through certain things, but what's happening is everything's going digital, and we have limited access now, technology-wise, interactive readers. They also felt, and I was learning this as I was coming into the position, that there was some questions on what supplemental materials they were using at each grade level because they needed to supplement certain areas, specifically at certain grades. So at times there might be a trade book that they were discussing, and are they using it in 8th grade or are they using it in 11th grade? So that was just kind of a quick overview of where we're at right now, and why we began this conversation. And I think age is one of the main pieces, and lack of resources when everything's going digital is where I would focus your attention. So continuing on, go ahead, Jeff. So these were the considerations they looked at prior, because they were ready to make some. They were down to 2 series, and that's the first 2 there: Pearson, which is my perspectives, and then Intro to Literature. That's where they were as I joined this team in the fall. They had, though, looked at all of these series, so they did a pretty thorough look at multiple options that are out there when it comes to the resources needed moving into a secondary ELA resource material, textbook material that then it will be adapted into our curriculum. So they were the 6 considerations. They got it down to 2. Pearson, my perspectives, is what we're going to focus on. That is what we're bringing you today. So continue, Jeff. So my perspectives, what they really liked, and again, we could belabor this, we can get into a lot of detail, but ultimately let's look at the key points of what does this offer us going into next year. In the future is, there'll be a large collection of trade books that are accessible to us as part of our process and part of what we purchase should we go this direction. We will want to come back to you with future approval on what those trade books are per grade level. But right now we're looking at the initial adoption of the textbook that will guide this process. So we will come back to the table when we have a look at what we want to use, what we select by grade level as we move through this process, should this be selected. What's really neat is they're moving into an interactive student edition. So think about your old traditional textbook, moving away from that to a more interactive reader. So you have the students having something they can write in, they can annotate in, they can take notes in. It's their material. It's not necessarily just that old textbook that has to go back and forth. The other nice piece is it's a very, and we get into that a little bit more, is the strong digital component. I'll just combine that now, is a lot of the material still is accessible online. So there's not that need for the old traditional textbook. These right here are our teacher guides that have the material in for review, and I'll come back to that at the end. Close reading, very important piece of when we're looking at text-dependent analysis and how we look at literature and how we talk about literature and how we write about literature. So there's a very distinct component in there. Most series are really focusing in on that now because of the need and because, part of it being the testing, but also part of it being the importance of being able to analyze what we read and be able to speak about that. They get into what is called building literacy, 3 areas there: developing meaning, language development, effective expression, all those key aspects inside of the curriculum that we want students to learn. That is more of the educational jargon there, but it dives into what the teachers will be focusing in on through this resource. There are 5 to 6 units based on a topic. Depending on the grade level is how that works through the entire series. Like I said, strong digital component. I'm a big advocate. I think there is value in assessment. There is value in accountability. It is not the only thing. It is not just a number. If we're going to use assessment effectively, and I love those words, it needs to inform instruction. Assessment is only as good as what it directs us to do, not a number that tells us, in comparison. To me, it's about informing instruction. So just some reasoning on why we went this direction. So we'll continue on. Go ahead, Jeff. Our process will be 8 total years, and we talked through this. This was part of what I really focused in with our team was what is a realistic way to invest and how do we do it effectively and cost effectively. So our initial investment will be for 4 grades, 6, 7, 8. Why 6, 7, and 8? We have 2 teachers in ELA at each grade level. They can take on the curriculum development part of this. They will dive into that. They will look at the resources we were using. They will go back in, and I'm going to show a couple of the policies then that we have to look at when it comes to adopting resource, when it comes to planned instruction, when it comes to making sure standards are aligned. They can do that. Our issue at 9th grade is while we have a department, they are also teaching other courses. So bringing in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th at one time doesn't necessarily make sense because then you're just overwhelming the system trying to reload all different topics. So they are very much committed, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Let's get it in 9th grade. Let's begin with our freshmen coming in. We do still have a little bit of access to what we were using, so we can continue with that a little bit. They have that tweaked enough, and we're going to build each year after that. The nice part, cost-wise, is it's initial investment early on, but then it's smaller investments in 10, 11, 12, and then for the last 4 years, we own it. It's ours. There's no cost at that point. And those on the curriculum committee, we've discussed the need to look at how we organize this over the course of years. So when we're looking at financial investment and we're looking at the curriculum budget, that we're organized in what we're doing. So, and we all felt 8 years is pretty, a pretty decent time to get used to it, to use it, to not move too quickly away from something, but also not to be so overinvested that we couldn't make a change, and it fits inside the 2030 plan we continue to talk about. Curriculum development, there is money inside of our budget. We will use that this summer. Our ELA teachers are ready to dive into work. So what they'll do is they'll take what is in the material, what they already have inside their curriculum apps. They will adapt the resources, the materials into it to make it a viable curriculum moving forward. Go ahead, Jeff. I have here for review 6, 7, 8, 9. We chose the teaching editions because it gives you both kind of a perspective from the educator who's using that, as well as the material that would be connected to the interactive student editions. And like I said, we'll come back to the trade books as we, work with, once we dive more into with the company, once we have approval for this, then we'll sit with them and start talking about the next level of implementation and gaining those materials. The final slide, go ahead, Jeff. Just, I think there is a lot of policy considerations. Again, I'm learning as I go when it comes to adopting this. The key one in this is the adoption of textbooks, which is policy 108, and that is why we are here. But what will happen once this is done is that guide for planned instruction, that adoption of planned instruction, making sure curriculum standards, making sure materials are available, all fits into all of this because our community, our board need, and our educators and students need to have access to all of this. So while the adoption of the textbook is why we're here tonight, it will fall under all of these categories moving forward. The last policy 109 is the resource material, which is more of our trade books we'll come back to and bring those to you once we select those. Last piece of this. So there is one more slide. Sorry, Jeff. This doesn't happen. This was a lot of work done by the principals and the team prior, to my moving into this role. But the 4 people that are listed there, Pelly Naiman, Lisa McCarthy, Deborah Parker, and Annick Helbig, are phenomenal. Annick and Deb are our leads at the high school. Lisa and Pelly are our leads at the middle school. They came together. They're working, all together, kind of connecting that secondary piece. They have been instrumental in guiding me and guiding this process. And then, of course, all our ELA teachers, because it went back to them to make sure we were in agreement as we move forward. Another key piece, while it's not the most important thing, it is still important, is we tried to do this under the umbrella of a sound financial decision. When we tried to look at those series and we looked at what do they offer, we also went back to the table and said, what's the best you're going to give us for the least amount? Saving money, but getting the quality we wanted. And while I didn't dive into all details about each of those areas, the team did provide some information, and my perspective just was, for many reasons, their strongest. They felt it was ranked highly according to reports, especially some of the independent reports out there. But again, this team was so instrumental in getting us to this point. So with that said, I'll take any questions, or if there's any other thoughts.
Dr. Bickhart, will we be having those on display at the administration for the parents to
Yes.
review before we? Okay.
Yep. We will make sure all these teacher guides are available for the next 2 weeks. And I think, I should say, we're putting the presentation today for approval moving forward. So we'll have all this ready to go.
And then parents or community members can come to the administration office to review the materials.
Any questions from the board?
John, you also negotiated that quote, and so you saved us more money in addition to that. So I know that you worked on that, and I have to give a shout out to the admin team because I feel like they have a little competition going on who can save the most money. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bickhart. Okay, next order of business tonight is our soccer field rental. Board will take action to approve the payment of $2,300 to the Danville Area Community Center for the rental of one soccer field located at the soccer park on East Market Street in Danville for the spring season of 2021. I have a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Fish. I have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Reichart. It's a voice? Or,
Roll call.
no, roll call, that's right. Yep.
Dr. Katachu,
Yes.
Mr. Gordon,
Yes.
Dr. Gursky,
Yes.
Mr. Kirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Reichert, Dr. Uasa,
Yes.
Mrs. Fish,
Yes.
Mr. Huron.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on to school and community relations. Okay, the Danville Area School District is represented in local organizations such as the Danville Area Community Center, Danville Business Alliance, and the Community Giving Foundation. Dr. Boyle attends meetings and participates as a member of the Danville Business Alliance and the Community Giving Foundation. Dr. Bickhart is the district representative for the DAC, the Danville Area Community Center. They coordinate efforts to provide opportunities for students and families in our district. That's just a point to note some of the things that may not always be seen by the community, the things kind of I call sometimes behind the scenes, but a lot of activities and a lot of other things that we're doing to support not only our students and our school system, but our outlying communities. So thank you for all those extra efforts, you guys. Okay, item 9.2 is casual dress down. Go ahead and read these. The Danville Area School District offers employees the opportunity to wear casual dress attire on Friday for a fee, which is donated to local charitable organizations. March donations will be given to the following organizations. March 5th is to the Many Hands Helping Others. March 12th, National Multiple Sclerosis Society. March 19th, National Down Syndrome Society. And March 26th, Epilepsy Society. And this has always been a pretty cool thing. How long have we been doing this? Because we have fun. I see you guys have fun with it, and it's really just it's based in such incredibly good things that we're doing. How long have we been at that?
The district's been doing it for quite a few years.
Okay.
This year, in the past few years, we've been trying to push it to more local. Like even most of these, we have some of our employees who are involved personally with these national societies, and sometimes do the runs or whatever they have going on. Yeah. And we take their charities into consideration.
And it's,
So you
and-
asked the, oh,
Oh, please, no.
so you asked the employees for ideas on who they'd like to donate the funds to?
Yes, a lot of times they'll call, they'll say, you know, so-and-so is doing a run for the Epilepsy Society, and we'll take all that into consideration when we make up. I've been going month by, sometimes we started doing it by the year, but this year with everything, I just
Right.
been doing it monthly to go with the changes and everything we've been having.
Thank you.
But I guess I just wanted to share one thing because it was neat that I saw that level of detail and some interactions. Was it's like you make it fun.
I try.
You know, that's the part that not only is it founded in some great things that are just partially reflected here, but the fact that you make it kind of fun within the Friday context is it's kind of a neat dynamic to see everybody and how that fits together and livens things up. So that's great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to finance. Danville Area School District tax collection.
I'm just going to make this a quick update.
Yeah, okay.
We started collecting the taxes for Valley, Cooper, and West Hemlock Township for the real estate taxes, and we got our first payments in. Everything went well. We completed our first report, and we are in the process of still setting up the online banking starting in July. We went over that last time.
All right, thank you. Then we're moving on to policy and insurance section. We have items in section 12. There's 12.1 through 12.5. The first 12.1 through 12.4 fit within what Dr. Cataccio had mentioned, which is the team put together under leadership of Dr. Boyle is taking a look at the formalities of our policies, making sure they're up to current standards, current requirements, that they're actually been reviewed and proofed, and there's a priority that we're going through those, and I think it's a healthy thing for any organization to do that, and it's currently underway. Those particular items were 4 of them that we had what we consider the first readings. So unless there's some discussion we would like on those, or all of them individually, I should turn over to the board. We could either do consent on all items 12 or pull them all apart. So I look for the board to give some direction on how we want to handle those this time.
I'll make a motion to approve 12.1 to 12.4.
12.1, 12.4, okay.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And will that be a voice or that would be
A roll call.
roll call? Yeah, blue. Of course.
Mr. Gordon,
Yes.
Dr. Gursky,
Yes.
Mr. Kirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Reichert,
Yes.
Dr. Uasa, Mrs. Fish,
Yes.
Dr. Katachu,
Yes.
Mr. Huron.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries 12.1 through 12.4. So that leaves us with 12.5, which is a memorandum of understanding between the DEA and the Danville Area School District School. Board will take action to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Danville Education Association and the Danville Area Board of Directors.
I motion to approve. This is Johannes.
I think I'd like some discussion.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Whoever wants to take the lead, to you guys to start the dialogue.
So are we looking at increasing this rate because of a management concern, or is it because we have COVID money from the CARES Act that we have received that we can, and we're offering a larger or a different kind of summer school program? I'm just curious as to what the logic is behind doubling their hourly rate.
Okay. What it has to do with is the fact that we want to offer summer school, and we want to have high quality teachers that are willing to work. And we have in the past had a lot of issues with getting people to work for the contracted rate. This would only be for the summer school programs that are covered for the under the CARES Act or under the ESSER's funds. And what it amounts to is we want to have a more robust, several things going on at one time. We want to make sure that we have as many students as possible attending. And if we can't get teachers to teach, then we're not going to be able to have the services for as many students.
So what precautions are being taken so that this is a one-time deal because of COVID?
In the MOU, it's very specific to saying that it is due to the ESSER 3 funds, and the end date of the ESSER 3 funds is September 23 or 2023. So that is included in the MOU in the language. So, and it is very specific to the summer program, the potential after-school tutoring, and then the summer of 2022 program.
So following this MOU and responding to the COVID results, we're going to go back to the $25 an hour, which is in the contract.
Well, it's $20 in the contract, and yes, even for the curriculum planning this summer, it will be at the $20 an hour. This was only for the summer programs, so that we can really, do a lot more for the kids. Any other questions?
Anybody else?
I'm trying to think how I want to phrase. So do we know? How do we decide who goes to summer school? Is it a parental choice? Is it a
We want to definitely offer it, and the ESSER funds does give us some outlines. We definitely want to make sure we're addressing all the needs for special education students, students who are ESL, students who are homeless, Title I, and we also want to look at what students have not achieved to the degree that we would have expected them. Any students that have regressed will obviously include them as well, and then we will open it for parents who would like to send their children, because let's face it, all children have missed out on a lot this year, and as from March of last year as well. So we believe that as much as we can do for as many as we can is what is best for the district and for the students.
And what do we shoot for a certain ratio of teachers to students?
Yeah, we did do a preliminary budget, and we did look at basically class size could be similar or maybe a little bit smaller than what they are now. So we'll continue to look at the budget to make sure we're doing what we need to do. From this, we will then go out and find out what students are interested in participating, and we can plan from there for our exact numbers.
How do we get to this number?
It's very close to the average daily or hourly rate for our teachers now, which was $48.21.
Okay, so that's the average
across all of the
educators,
individuals.
The per diem hourly rate.
Yes.
Okay, the per diem hourly rate. Okay.
So
Oh,
go ahead. No, please, Jen, go ahead.
I think my question on this, because I haven't seen a full budget and what the total amounts are going to be, I just think that I have a concern that we're taking a contract negotiated rate for teachers, which we just approved a contract for at $20 an hour, and we're in excess of 100% increase. I would just like to see the numbers that go with this. I'm not sure I'm comfortable voting on it tonight without additional information.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table this till next meeting. There's a lot of information out there that needs to be, I need to look at it more in depth as well, I think. Especially after what Jen just said.
I'll second that motion.
Please understand that the ESSER 3 funds come with a requirement that you take 20% of what we receive and put it into low-performing students. So that's part of this. It doesn't come directly out of our normal budget. It does come out of the ESSER 3 budgets, and this would be within that. Bobby, do you have?
Yeah, I just want to comment on that. PDE did not publish the exact amount for ESSER 3s yet. It's not out there, but the preliminary number for 20% of the set aside that's mandated by us to do learning loss and recovery is going to be about $694,000.
So maybe we would, and I don't want to speak for Jen or Kyle, but maybe having some more information on how we're determining the students, what's the data that we're using to determine educational loss, as well as what the data was to determine the number that you came up with, would just help us to better be informed on why we're going from $20 an hour to $50 an hour. I do, as just in my other life, understand that the difficulty out there of getting staff to come in. It's any summer program we run is a volunteer, in the respect of we don't hold them to a contract, that we can't enforce them coming in. So we're at the behest of those that are willing to work. And I know that on my end, I'm struggling to find staff to do that.
That's what we've heard as well, is that, they don't have plans on coming at $20 an hour. Therefore, our issue is, how do we put out there to have students come and get that without knowing we will be able to have teachers staff it? So that's the dilemma. It goes back and forth with what you guys are thinking. And that's why we're trying to get this taken care of. Dr. Bickhart, do you have something?
Not that, I think this is one of the projects Dr. Boyle has asked me to look at and work with the team on. And I think there is, great questions to be asked on creating an amount like that. And I think what we have looked at is, we know the greatest resource to put in front of kids to do any kind of learning is teachers in front of them, not virtual, not on. We don't want any of this online stuff for the summer. We want to try and have some kind of format of, face-to-face interaction. And I think looking at our teachers as that resource and bringing them in and creating a memorandum that says, this isn't forever. This is based on a number that we have been given, directed to use for this format. I mean, we were talking this morning about how do we use this? Like, what are the parameters? I will be honest. I'm concerned that even by offering this, I don't know it's a fairly significant amount of money that we're being offered. I'm worried. I want to do whatever we can to get as many teachers connected to this, to create opportunities for all kids. Yes, we've got to follow specifically and look at data and look at some of the numbers, but I also think we want to, just beyond a summer school, it's 15 days for K through 8. I want to look at other opportunities that some of our teachers may bring to the table that fall in some of these categories, that may be other kind of camps into the summer, that just create constant opportunity for our kids in this district throughout the entire summer. And I think the issue becomes, if the money is there and that's what has to be used for, what is the most effective way we can get as many people involved in this? I'm not sure, even based on the number of teachers, the number of kids we will get, because some families are just going to choose, it's summertime. It's time to take a break. It's been a long year. I don't even know if we can get to that. I've said this all along to Dr. Boyle. I'm not sure, no matter what, we're going to get to the number that has been allocated, that we must spend on that specifically based on the way it's being done. So we're just trying to look at the most effective way of taking that pot of money, using our resources, our teachers, and create as many opportunities as possible this summer to do that. So,
and that's an important point. And I think maybe, Bobby, if you could explain to the public, this is not money from our budget. This is money that is specifically allocated to address the effects of COVID. So it is a once and done kind of distribution of funds. And it's not coming out of our regular taxpayer dollars. It's coming out of the ESSER's fund. So if you could explain that a little, because I think that might be some of the concern, is where the money's coming from.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is using ESSER 3 funds. At the next presentation meeting in April, I'm going to go over how we used ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and this is going to talk about ESSER 3. So we will be shortly putting a budget together for ESSER 3 in total. We've started with the summer school piece of it for the learning loss. The money can be spent all the way back to March 15th of 2020, but we wouldn't want to open our books back up, so we would really start at 7/1 of 21 for anything. So we could use the money from 7/1 of 21 to September 30th of 23. Now the state did apply for a waiver to go to 24, but I haven't heard if that was approved yet. So we're looking at it till 23. And there is a mandatory set aside like I said, for learning loss. So our total estimated is approximately $3.4 million. And it's one-time money that we got from the federal government to use to offset some revenue loss that we had, such as earned income tax. You've heard me talk about this here. Interest income has been lost. State funding has been flat funded for the last couple of years. Also, increase in cyber charter school. So I can't say it enough. Our increase in cyber charter school was up like $750,000 from last year. The fact is, we can't use this money for cyber charter school. The law states that, plain and simple. I can't apply the expenses. So we have to offset something else in an effort to save this money, to use state and local money for cyber charter schools. So this federal funds can be supplanted, but the learning loss piece, the $694,000, is specifically designated for exactly that: summer school, extended hours of school, social and emotional learning. So all of that is what we're looking at with that $694,000. That's an estimate. Just want to reiterate that I haven't gotten final numbers. So so I know it's coming. It was approved. I just the grant's not out there yet to apply for.
And is the 649
94.
or 94 for the entire term of the, that's
Yes.
not just this year's?
That's correct. We looked at splitting it between 2 summers and then fall and spring next year.
And if we don't use it all, what happens to it?
I don't think anyone's not going to use it all. So you've returned it to the federal government. I don't think anyone has ever done that before. So we will.
I'm trying to demonstrate why it's
we will
different
use it all.
money than our typical.
So we talked about bringing in some social and emotional learning in the summer. And then also Mr. Bickert, Dr. Bickert, talked about summer camps. So introducing some of that social piece that the students were lacking by doing more of a summer camp feel than just straight summer school. So that would be an extension of what we talked about for the budget for this.
Which is an important piece, because we've talked a lot about how COVID, and we heard from Dr. Maffei last time we were here about how big the impact has been of COVID, not COVID the virus, but the pandemic itself on social and emotional learning for our kids. So this is relief that's come to us in order to try to address that deficit.
Yeah, and another thing, like I've been attending some Psba meetings the last 2 weeks. It's the annual conference, and a lot of them are talking about not being able to get teachers for summer school, and they were talking about doing maybe 1 or 2 hours of in-person learning, but then having online learning. So you're going from online learning to online learning in the summer, and it's not exactly the same as having the in-person teachers. So that was discussed at Psba.
And we definitely want to avoid that at Danville. I mean, we want to be a leader in this. We want to provide a robust summer academics and activities combined opportunity for students. Give them their lunch, have them have some social time, and create an atmosphere that is fun again, culture, but yet they're learning every day with their math and ELA and their I've got science teachers that say, well, I'd like to do experiments with them. We didn't get to do many experiments this year. So we have a lot of people have interest, but they're not going to do it for $20 an hour. They're very discouraged by that.
So to speak to the individual who made a public comment earlier, are we doing any kind of survey to see what your families in the community are thinking about for their summer?
That's our plan. But I want to make sure I have the staff that's going to be available to do these things. I don't want to offer something that I can't follow through on.
But a survey wouldn't commit you to.
I know, but yeah.
I'm just saying that if you're struggling, if you're planning, you should know what you're planning for number wise. So to have an idea of that would be helpful. That way you're better able to plan. But I'm asking the community to weigh in on this in the respect of what they think. Because I think there's going to be those that are, like Dr. Bickert said, who they've had it up to here over the last 12 months, and so they're done, and they want to do family time. But then there are those that are going to identify that their children have missed out on instruction, and this is a chance for us to catch them up or to keep them on track that we haven't had in the past. So just knowing what the community is looking at and thinking about.
If we
I made
do-
a motion 8 minutes ago. Mr. Kirsch seconded it, and we still haven't voted on it.
No, that's why we're having a public discussion.
Well,
though.
this is something that needs to be done in executive session, not sitting here
No,
talking about
this
it.
is a public discussion.
Okay.
I think this discussion is very, very appropriate.
I made a motion, it was seconded, and we still haven't voted on it. It's been 8 minutes.
It's a necessary discussion as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions?
I have a quick question about the estimates. With the previous ESSERs, I know we're estimating 3.4, of which 694 have to be associated with
Yep.
education.
The ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 did not have that requirement for the set aside.
But about your estimates, though,
Yes.
how close were, like, did you get previous estimates before and have, we're going to get 2 millions from ESSER's 1 and
Oh, yes. This comes from Psba, so it's
Okay.
going to be pretty accurate.
okay.
It just depends on what the state has to set aside. And they took that into consideration. So it'll be pretty accurate. I see that they have a spot on PDE's website for ESSER 3, but it's not there yet.
And this is only open to the, just say an honor student wants to come in and take summer class to earn credits for his graduation. Can you do that?
Well, high school is doing a different model. They'll be doing the credit recovery. So, but we still would look at possibly providing the camp atmospheres, like a soccer camp or something of that nature. But no, they would not be coming to
We're going to pay a teacher
additional credits.
$50 an hour for soccer camp?
Honest. To get people here, yeah.
One thing I just want to ask about the survey, if you do determine surveying the community would be prudent, can we also survey and ask about after-school programming? I've been in the district for a long time, since 2009, and have not seen a lot of after-school programming to address learning loss for kids that are on campus. I think it's probably a good idea to put that out there and see if there's people who are interested in those things for their children, for social and also for learning losses, if possible, please.
Yeah, Dr. Gursky, part of the plan is after school for next school year, both fall and spring. We did look at it for this last semester, but again, we did not get any teachers who were interested in adding hours to their day.
Thank you, Dr. Boyle. I appreciate that information.
No problem.
I also think we should delay voting on this until the future, because I just didn't feel like I got enough time to ponder on this major issue. I got the email, I guess, from Dr. Boyle yesterday, but I didn't open it until today, hours before the meeting. And I don't think that $20 an hour going up to $50, the specifics of that in the MOU was laid out until I saw the email. Am I right about that, or was that in the agenda already? Or
It was in the agenda, and it was attached. The MOU was attached to the agenda.
well, we have a motion on the table. I think to do justice to the process, we have to take action on that motion. So I'd like to do a roll call vote unless there's a reason not to do it that way.
Repeat the motion.
So the motion is to table this item. Let me repeat it formally. Second, get back to it. Okay, on item 12.5, which is the motion, the memorandum of understanding between the DEA and the Danville Area School District. There's currently a motion on the table. Motion put forth to table action on this particular item to another date, future date. I capture that reasonably well? Okay. So with that said, we have a motion put forth by Mr. Gordon and a second by Mr. Kirsch. So could we do a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Gursky,
Yes.
Mr. Kirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
No.
Dr. Uwasa,
Yes?
Mrs. Fish,
No.
Dr. Katachu,
No.
Mr. Gordon,
Yes.
or yes? Oh, Mr. Huron,
Yes.
5.
Okay. So with that said, did we discuss how we go about getting this collective input that we just had to a point where we can move forward with direction? Because I understand, is there a specific time sensitivity to the timing on this? I know there's a lot of moving parts, so I want to be respectful of that part of the strategy. But with enough of the board feeling they want to take a harder look at the details, I guess we shouldn't leave here without some semblance of how we're going to get to that point.
I just want to comment that I do have a finance committee meeting on April 7th. So I will be presenting the ESSER 3 budget, at least the summer school portion or the learning loss portion of the budget at that meeting. And then we can present that at the next board meeting, which would be April 14th. So the budget piece will be there. And then we can discuss the other.
And we will have curriculum committee on the 7th as well, so we can have a discussion then.
Okay.
Thank you.
But we all got to remember that we've got the subcommittees built a certain way to make sure we don't create quorums, right? So that's going to be a function to instill. So I guess from my view of the situation is, as we've had these discussions, we have further things. Do we capture them and send an email to the committee chairperson or Dr. Boyle, or yes to all the above? And that way that can be part input from everybody into those subcommittees to vet that out and to have those discussions, which will be part of the what comes back out of those committees.
So each individual would send to the chairperson and to me, but they would not send to the group.
Right. And when can we make a what would be the date? Let's just get that structure. When would
What
we?
are we sending, Chris? I'm not sure I understand.
That's what I'm trying to get to, Jen. Thank you. You're thinking along me probably. I'm just trying to get the date and then how we package that and all that. So
Well, I was thinking we would have a discussion at the committee meetings and there'd be information presented to us with details and budgets and the camps and the survey information, those things. We really can't discuss until we know that stuff. At least from my perspective, it's difficult.
right. The only the challenge with that, Jen, is we all can't go to those meetings.
Is this something that we could cover in executive session before the next board meeting?
No, this is an executive
Okay, that's why I'm
information.
asking. Okay.
Dr. Gursky, what you would send is if you have something you want to comment on or something that you would like us to address, okay? So that then we can take a look at it before our committee meetings. So you don't have to send anything, but I just want it to be open that you have the ability to do so.
So that we could ask for something specific that we didn't mention tonight. You know what I mean? Like if we had a question. Okay, thank you for
That'd be helpful. Thank you.
So those dates are what again? I'm sorry, I didn't write them down.
April
so
7th or the committee.
April
They're both
7th.
April 7th.
So could we make a commitment amongst the group that by April 6th, not later than April 6th, that you can send your questions or anything
Could
relative
we have
to
a
this?
little earlier than that? 'Cause
Okay.
That's less than 24 hours to work with it.
Absolutely. That's why I just
So
want
could
to have
it
this
be
discussion.
maybe April 1st?
That gives us 2 weeks. How about April 1st?
Get it before Easter.
Get it before
Yeah,
the
so I have something
before
to
the
do.
Easter break. Fair enough. No, that's a good point. That's why I wanted to vet that out so we don't walk out of here and everybody's got a different understanding of the timelines. I just want to be respectful of all that.
So April 1st, we're to get information to those 2 committees as to what it is we're looking for.
Yes.
And then could we report out after those committee meetings to the board what their findings? There's time for everyone
We
to
would at the
review
next
the
meeting.
findings before our next board meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a great idea.
and then not have it as a consent item, I think would just be a procedural
Separate.
if there's a discussion maybe.
That makes sense.
It wasn't a consent item, it was an action item.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so April 1st. All right, thank you, everybody. Very healthy discussion. Appreciate that. That's important stuff. Okay, where are we? Nothing on transportation tonight. And we move on to board concerns and items for next meeting, or just comments, I guess, anything else from the board team? Anybody? I'm just going to throw something in there because I just think it's important. It's in the same context as earlier as I had thought about. I just want to say thank you to a lot of the folks like Jeff Ryan and his team that takes time outside of sometimes of our view to put together the virtual process and some of these other things, because it's a healthy fabric that's gotten us through COVID, and it's still maintained. So thank you to all those folks and Jeff and his team. All right, so if no other board members have anything else to share tonight, let's move on to the final public comment period. And I'll gaze across the room and don't see anybody that's raising their hand right now inside the room. So Jeff, do you have anybody outside the room that's interested to make another public comment, or not another, a public comment at this time?
Nope, no public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you.
And thanks, Chris, for the acknowledgement.
I'm sorry?
And thank you for the acknowledgement.
Oh, you're welcome. Much deserved. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Second.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.